Good afternoon, boys and girls, and mommies and daddies, and grandmommies and grandpuppies. Phew, thank you for waiting. It is, the wives and the mamas out here can tell, can agree with grandmommy that if you try to hurry up and get around to a certain time that you have to be there, men just get in your way and they keep asking, are you ready yet? Are you ready yet? Are you ready yet? And you know you can't get ready when you keep asking, are you ready yet? Okay? So try to do that with 3 little pigs running around. They came over to the house to pick me up. Mrs. Piggy, Mama Piggy, she usually keeps a good eye on the boys, but I don't know what was going on in the living room, but they were all over the place, and every once in a while they'd come running down the hall to my room and say, are you ready yet, Grandmommy? So here I am, okay? Today's adventure is, we're going to start off with something secret. Mr. Farmer Brown, what is he doing now? Oh my goodness gracious sakes alive. He won't tell anybody. We just have to kind of look and see what he brings in the yard, because everything he's been buying, it disappears. It's not in the barn and it's not in the house. And Mrs. Farmer Brown said to Mrs. Mama Piggy that she looked all over every barn and couldn't find where he's hiding all the lumber and all the furniture. He brought furniture in too. She's just really kind of wondering what he's doing. Let me get a little drink of water here. I was asked to write I call it write a paper, about my trip a few years ago to Egypt. And, I'm a kind of a wordy person, if you couldn't tell, and so I have to keep telling myself to cut it down, because even cut down, it's going to be a long paper, a big paper. So that's what I was working on. Thank you, Penny. That's what I was working on before, and I got carried away with looking up some history dates, to not sound like an idiot like I usually do. So Mr. Farmer Brown has this new project. He has the boys helping him. Allie, Piggly, Wiggly, and Squiggly, and of course, the LBW. They're all helping him, and they are sworn to secrecy. You can't get a word out of those young'uns. Now, you know how little boys are, yeah. Well, they're not yetting at all. They're just doing their little thing and disappearing. Well, what he's doing, he's building something. That's obvious, right? And he won't tell anybody what it's going to be until the day comes. He loves to do that. And Mrs. Farmer Brown, he just drives her crazy sometimes, because he just won't tell her anything until it's already done, So I'm sure it's going to be an interesting project. He said it was going to be quite a few months down the road before he could announce what it was. So Grandmommy's going to have to make notes every time he says something. We'll have to write these little words down and put them all together and see just see what he is doing out there somewhere on his vast acreage, unless he's bought more. Oh, gracious sakes. I need to talk to Mrs. Farmer Brown. There was a farm right behind their fence that was for sale. I wonder if he bought that farm. You reckon he did? We'll find out. Well, in the meantime, Piggly, Wiggly, and Squiggly, they wanted to give a birthday party for one of their little friends. We haven't met this little friend yet, and he's a real sweet little thing. Billy the Bunny, and he had a little sister, Betty Jo the Bunny. Her birthday was coming up, and the boys asked Mommy Piggy if they could throw a birthday party for her. And she said, well, isn't her mother going to give her a birthday party? And Piggly and Wiggly, they started to cry. And so Squiggly had to tell Mommy Piggy that they didn't have a mama. She had died. She had something wrong with her, and she died. And so their daddy, Bobby Bunny, was raising these two little kids by himself. And so she said, we'll give them a birthday party. She said, we'll just do it up good. You can invite anybody you want to. Oh, my goodness gracious. That was all those boys needed to hear. They invited the whole first grade, their room. They invited the first grade on this room over here. And they invited the first grade on that room over there, way over there. And then they went to the church and they asked the preacher, did he know anybody in town that was a friend of Mr. Bobby Bunny? Because they were going to make sure that everybody came, which was really super sweet. Those boys, you know, they're just so sweet. Well, she made the cutest, Mama Piggy made the cutest little cake. And this little girl was turning 5 years old. That means that she's going to start kindergarten. Oh, how exciting. Oh, boy, she's excited. Betty Jo Bunny. You look for her name because I think one day she's going to be famous. She loves to play the piano. Her little ears just bobbing up and down while she's playing that piano. I mean, she's going to be famous. You mark my words. Betty Jo Bunny. You write that down now. And about 10 years from now, I bet you nickel she'll be in the newspapers. She'll be so famous. So we'll see. Well, the cake was pretty and pink with little red roses and little green leaves and a whole bunch of pink frosting. Oh my gosh, it was so good. Ah. And 5 pretty pink candles on there. And you know what? Mommy Piggy was a stinker. You know what she did? She put the last candle, was one of those candles that won't blow out. You keep blowing, and it still won't go out. You keep on, and that's what she did to poor little Betty Jo. I forgot. Anyway, that's what she did to Betty's cake. She did that. I'm so surprised that Mrs. Mama Piggy did that. But anyway, they played games, and then it came time to open up the presents. And oh, those boys, they spent some of their hard-earned money that they had saved up for Christmas. Well, they had some left over. And they spent about half of what they had left over because they wanted to make sure that she got everything a little girl could ask for. Well, her daddy was sitting there in the kitchen with Mrs. Mama Piggy and with Mrs. Farmer Brown and all the other mothers, because the kids were out there. They were just having a ball. They were throwing cake back and forth, and they were, oh my goodness, dumping ice cream on top of everybody's head. I tell you, those boys know how to throw a party, and they also know how to get in trouble too. But I digress. He said to Mama Piggy, he says, Mrs. Mama Piggy, he said, that was such a sweet, beautiful birthday. Thank you so much for doing this for my little girl. And she says, well, that's fine. She says, and I've got it written down on my calendar so we can do it again next year. And Mrs. Farmer Brown says, well, we could hold it at my house too next year. That'd be fun too. And he's looking back and forth at these two ladies. One is Mr. Farmer Brown's wife, and he had already heard of Mr. Farmer Brown. Mr. Farmer Brown, I think, should run for mayor of the woods. I think he would make the best mayor. Now, maybe Benjamin Bear would make a good mayor. I don't know him that well, but I know that Mr. Farmer Brown would make a good mayor because he's always looking out for everybody that lives in the forest. And that's what a good mayor is supposed to do. He's supposed to know his people and to look out for them and not make any stupid rules and so forth like that. So anyway, Mr. Bunny, Bobby Bunny, he was a little, wow. She would have that party for my kids, as wild as it is out there, in her house. Oh my goodness gracious. Well, of course, Mama Piggy had it in her house. I mean, doesn't make much difference, does it? So anyway, he thought that was nice. Well, they got to talking, and he told Mrs. Mama Piggy and Mrs. Farmer Brown all about how his wife had died, and she had some kind of cancer that wasn't very good. And that's a real hard thing for grown-ups to deal with. Well, among the presents that Piggly Wiggly and Squiggly got for little Betty Joe was a tricycle. And little Betty Joe, you know, remember how small is Sadie Skunk. Remember, she's a little itty-bitty thing, and now she weighs 3 pounds. Well, little Betty Joe Rabbit was just almost the same size as Sadie Skunk. And fact is, when Sadie Skunk walked in the door, she looked right over to Betty Joe, and she goes, "Oh, Sally, Sally, look." When Sally says, "What about?" She says, "Look over there. There's a little girl that's about the same size I am." Oh boy. And she couldn't wait to go run and meet her. She ran over across that room and met her. She hung with Sally Joe, Sadie and Betty Joe hung around together all afternoon because they had such a good time, because they were the same size and they could appreciate the same things. Well, Piggly Wiggly and Squiggly, like I said, among all the presents they gave her a little tricycle. It was the cutest little thing. It just fit her. It was about this tall. It just fit her little legs and her little arms, and she was running all over that house on that tricycle. I mean, she just a-flying. And then she started taking Sadie Skunk on the back, on the thing that you stand on in the back. Oh, my goodness gracious. I thought that house was going to fall apart. I really did. And poor Mrs. Piggy, she comes out. She heard a noise, and she came out in the living room in the kitchen, and she looked around, and she just hangs her head. I don't know what broke, if there was anything, but it sure sounded like it was broken. And she goes back in the kitchen, and I asked her, I was there too, and I asked her, I said, "What happened?" And she says, "Oh," she says, I don't know. She says, I don't think I want to find out right now." And my Mrs. Farmer Brown, oh, you know how nice she is. She said, "Don't you worry at all." She said, "I will help you clean up this house." She says, "Don't you worry at all." And of course, I said I would too. And so that's what we had to do after the party. Well, the funny thing about this whole party was that the piggies had asked Billy and Betty, Joe, Bunny, to their house a couple of days ago, because they wanted to talk to Billy, and they wanted to find out, you know, the things that little Betty Joe liked to play with and such as that. And so they were doing some work out in their shed out in the backyard, and they heard Betty and Billy coming up the path, and Squiggly said, "Wiggly, Piggly, quick, run out the door. Stop him at the door and say something to him. I've got to hide Betty Joe's tricycle." Oh my goodness gracious. So they ran out the door and they said, "Hi, we're so glad that you got here. We're working in the woodshed, and you can come on in and look around and sit down and talk to us. But did you see the pretty flowers when you walked by? Aren't they pretty? They're my mama's favorite flowers." Well, they looked around and they really didn't see any flowers, because the bush that Squiggly or Piggly and Wiggly were talking about, it was through blooming, and there was no flowers on this bush, and so they couldn't see the flowers. But of course, you know, Piggly and Wiggly, they knew there was flowers over there, and so they just, you know, they're such stinkers. But they had to stretch out the time so that Squiggly could hide that tricycle. So they walked in, and everything was just, you know, just great. And Betty Jo, she's looking around, and oh, they were doing some woodwork, and the shed smelled so good with all that woodwork, and the shavings, the shavings from the thing, plane. Oh, she played and played with those curls, because they make curls, and you can put them all over your head and make curly hair. Oh my gosh, Grandmama used to do that same thing. So they left, and Wiggly and Squiggly are looking around. I'm sorry, Wiggly and Piggly were looking around, and they said, "Squiggly, where'd you hide that tricycle?" And Squiggly says, "You mean you haven't seen it yet?" And they said, "No, we haven't. We don't know where you hid that tricycle. Where'd you hide that tricycle at?" And he smiled real big, and he raised his eyebrow, and he says, he pointed up to the ceiling. Now there was what they call rafters up in the ceiling. So that means big long boards go from one side to the other side to hold up the roof. Okay? Squiggly had climbed up the ladder with the tricycle in his hand, bless his heart, and put that tricycle up on those rafters, hung it up there on the rafter. Can you believe that? Well, I'll tell you right now, they wrapped the tricycle. They're such little boys. They wrapped the tricycle, and Mama Piggy said, "Can I help you wrap that tricycle?" And they said no, they wanted to do it themselves. Well, they took 3 rolls of paper. 3 rolls of paper trying to get that tricycle wrapped. I thought that poor little Betty Jo was never going to get that tricycle unwrapped because it was so much paper. She finally did. See, what else has gone on now since we've seen each other? Lent started, and sure enough, Allie, Piggly, Wiggly, Squiggly, LBW, I'm trying to remember to call him LBW now, not Little Bad Wolf, Patty Pig, and Sally, they all were old enough to give up something for Lent. And don't you know, all of those young'uns gave up chocolate candy. How about that? Well, it's the best thing for little kids to give up anyway. So let me see. That was Wednesday. That was Lent. Now, what else has happened? Anything has happened? School's been good. And I think, since nothing else has happened, I think we'll just leave it at that, and we'll come back on Monday. Surely something's happened by Monday. You reckon? Oh, I forgot. Tomorrow night is the first dance at the skating rink. Oh, Mr. Farmer Brown, he's been so busy because he's had to, you remember, he put hinges on the skating rink so that he could turn it upside down and fix it for the dance floor. So he's got to do that sometime tomorrow, and I don't know if he's going to have the boys help him because it's pretty big and pretty heavy. So I don't know, but tomorrow night is the very first dance in the skating rink with who? Do you remember who? Billy, Ed, and Hilda. And you remember what Billy Ed plays? He plays the fiddle, and what does Hilda play? With the guitar. Okay? Oh, that's going to be a good time, good time. So with that, Grandmommy is going to say, see you later, but remember what you're supposed to do, boys and girls, and mommies and daddies, and grandmommies and grandpuppies. We're supposed to comment, we're supposed to like, and we're supposed to share, right? Is that the right way to do it? I see you, little lighting chick. You're just giggling over there. I can see that. You know you're supposed to do that. I want to say hello to, bring them on camera. We will have some pictures of them, not in the near future, but fairly soon. I did find some pictures, and my daughter is going to enlarge those pictures, and we'll have some pictures of them pretty soon. So I want to say hi to Joy and explain about the pictures. You're not the first person that's asked me that. you're trying to catch me, I know. With that, please tune in Monday at 2 o'clock, and we will see what the guys have been up to. Okay? Bye-bye.